Single dad sat alone at a wedding, until an older billionaire woman walked toward him. The wedding was supposed to be a celebration of love, but for Daniel Voss, it felt like a reminder of everything he had lost. He sat alone at the very edge of the grand ballroom, far from the champagne, laughter, and wealthy families filling the room. His old navy suit was clean and carefully pressed, but the sleeves had begun to fade, and one button had been replaced with a thread that didn't quite match. Nobody knew that beneath that suit was a father who had spent the last 3 years fighting every day just to keep a roof over his little daughter's head. Nobody knew that the photograph in his wallet showed the woman he had loved, the mother of his child, who had passed away before their daughter could even understand what death meant. And nobody could have imagined that before the night was over, one of the richest women in the country would walk straight across that crowded ballroom and stop in front of him. Daniel had not even wanted to attend the wedding. His former college friend, Michael, had insisted. He had told Daniel that after everything he had been through, he deserved one evening where he could forget his problems and simply be around people again. Daniel almost believed him. But the moment he entered the ballroom and saw designer gowns, expensive watches, crystal chandeliers, and people discussing vacations that cost more than his annual salary, he immediately felt like he had walked into someone else's world. He worked as a mechanic at a small garage on the edge of town. The pay barely covered rent, groceries, his daughter's school expenses, and the growing pile of medical bills left behind after his wife's illness. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was staying that evening with his elderly mother. Daniel had promised himself he would return home early. He wasn't interested in drinking or pretending to be successful. He just wanted to congratulate his old friend and leave. If you believe kindness still matters, that people deserve second chances, and that someone's worth should never be measured by their clothes or bank account, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Beyond Dream Stories for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Daniel sat quietly near a tall window overlooking the garden. Across the room, Michael's wedding guests laughed and celebrated while waiters moved between tables carrying silver trays. Daniel smiled whenever someone glanced his way, but nobody came over. He eventually stopped trying to look comfortable and simply stared outside. Then something unexpected happened. An older woman in an elegant deep green dress entered the ballroom. Everyone noticed her. She was Eleanor Harrington, a billionaire known throughout the business world for building one of the largest transportation companies in the country. She was in her early 60s, confident, graceful, and famously private. People immediately began whispering as she walked through the room. Some guests rushed toward her, hoping for a handshake or a business conversation. But Eleanor wasn't looking at them. Her eyes were fixed on Daniel. She slowly walked past tables filled with influential people, past executives and socialites who moved aside to make room for her. Daniel noticed her approaching but assumed she was going somewhere else. When she stopped directly in front of him, he looked behind himself, confused. Eleanor reached into the small folder she was carrying and pulled out an old black and white photograph. Daniel's face changed instantly. The photograph showed a damaged roadside car. Beside it stood a younger man helping an injured woman. Daniel recognized it. 3 years earlier, on a freezing winter night, he had been driving home when he saw a terrible accident on an empty highway. A luxury car had crashed through a barrier. While everyone else had driven past, Daniel had stopped. He pulled the injured woman from the vehicle, covered her with his own coat, called emergency services, and stayed beside her until the ambulance arrived. He never learned her name. He had simply gone home afterward because Lily was waiting for him. Eleanor placed the photograph in his hands. That injured woman had been her daughter. Daniel stared at the picture, stunned. Eleanor explained that her daughter had survived because a stranger refused to leave her alone in the cold. The police had searched for the man who saved her, but the only clue they had was a partial description and the registration number of Daniel's old truck. The search eventually went nowhere because Daniel had moved after losing his home. Eleanor had never forgotten the stranger. But there was something else. Her daughter had told her that the man who saved her kept repeating one thing while waiting for the ambulance, that he couldn't leave her because somebody, somewhere, was waiting for him too. Daniel remembered saying it. He had been thinking about Lily. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears as she told him that her daughter had recovered, married, and was now living a healthy life with her own family. But Eleanor had spent years searching for the man who had saved her. Daniel looked down at the photograph, suddenly overwhelmed. He hadn't expected anything in return. He had never imagined that one night of doing what he believed was right would come back into his life years later. But Eleanor wasn't finished. She had learned about Daniel's struggles after finally finding him. She knew about his wife's death, his financial problems, and the fact that he had refused several offers of charity because he wanted to provide for Lily himself. She didn't offer him pity. Instead, she offered him an opportunity. Eleanor's company was expanding its vehicle maintenance division, and she wanted Daniel to lead a new community-based repair program designed to provide affordable transportation repairs for struggling families. She had reviewed his work history and discovered something remarkable. Despite his circumstances, Daniel had never once abandoned his principles. The job came with a salary that could completely change his life. Daniel struggled to accept. He wasn't used to people helping him without expecting something in return. Eleanor understood. She told him that she wasn't paying him for saving her daughter. She was offering him a chance because she had seen the kind of man he was when nobody was watching. That sentence broke something inside Daniel. For years, he had believed his sacrifices had gone unnoticed. He had worked through exhaustion, skipped meals, repaired broken cars late into the night, and smiled for Lily even when he was terrified about the future. That night, for the first time, someone saw him. Months later, Daniel's life looked completely different. He moved Lily into a safe home, paid off the medical debts, and accepted the position Eleanor had offered. But the most important change wasn't the money. Daniel began hiring people who had been overlooked just as he once had. Single parents. Older mechanics. Former workers who had lost everything. Young people who simply needed someone to believe in them. Whenever someone asked why he cared so much, Daniel always remembered the night at the wedding. He had arrived feeling invisible. He left knowing that sometimes the people sitting quietly in the corner are carrying the greatest stories. And Eleanor never forgot him either. Every year, on the anniversary of the accident, she and Daniel visited the roadside where everything had begun. They placed flowers there and remembered the simple truth that changed both their lives. Kindness given without expecting anything can travel farther than we ever imagine. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Beyond Dream Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing stories about hope, courage, and second chances. Before we end, leave a comment saying, kindness always finds its way back, if you believe one good act can change a life. Because sometimes, the person sitting alone at the wedding isn't lonely because they have nothing to offer. Sometimes, they're simply waiting for someone to finally recognize their worth.